This is Changemakers with Katie Gore, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
Today, I'm with Paige Lohoffer, the founder of the Birthday Party Project. Paige has transformed from a successful wedding planner to a founder of the Birthday Party Project, a nationwide nonprofit that has brought joy to over 73,000 children experiencing homelessness through unforgettable birthday celebrations. As a passionate advocate for creating meaningful change, Paige has now expanded to 20 cities across America, mobilizing 35,000 volunteers to prove that joy can transform lives and build stronger communities. Paige, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Katie. I am so thrilled to be with you today.
I am so happy to talk about this because it is something from a different angle that we haven't ever shared on Changemakers. So let's get into this and let's talk about, first of all, your journey from planning pretty much dream weddings to creating birthday magic for kids, but not just any kids, kids experiencing homelessness. So, how did this all happen?
Yeah. So, like you said, I had an event planning firm and love to be a part of people's celebrations. I do think that there's something really magical that happens when people come together in a space for one purpose. And for over a decade, I had the privilege of being a part of people's most intimate celebrations, whether it was a wedding or bar and bat mitzvahs, big birthday parties, or corporate events. And while I was planning events, I actually was very, very pregnant with my daughter, Lizzie, on an airplane reading a magazine article about kids' birthday parties. And obviously, I plan events for a living. So I am going to have great birthday parties for my kid, right? So here I am flipping through this magazine and dreaming about all the ways that I would be able to celebrate her. And this was before Pinterest and Instagram and anything else online. I mean, let's take it all the way back, Katie. Been doing this a while. So after that, I actually put that magazine down and I picked up another magazine, and it was a Time magazine. And I landed on an article that just struck me to my core. You flip open a magazine and you expect to see all types of photos, but this one in particular will stay with me forever. And it was this black and white image of a little boy in Haiti, and he had sunken eyes and bloated belly, and there's like chaos and destruction in the background of this image, but in the foreground was this image that this little boy with just these beautiful cheeks. And he was staring right at me. And all I could think in that moment was, what about him? I mean, here I am, right? Dreaming about these big, beautiful, elaborate parties for my very unborn child at the moment. And there are children in the world that might never feel celebrated on their birthday. And so in that moment, it really hit me. It was like fire in my belly, like punch in my gut. Like, I can do something about this. I need to do something about this, but what does that look like? And, I'm in the middle of planning elaborate events all over the world. I'm very pregnant, about to give birth to my child. And so while I didn't think the time was right then, I knew that the time was coming. So, fast forward a little bit. Now I have a toddler at home and I'm still planning events, but in the back of my mind, you can't shake that, that like that intuition, Katie, like that gut feeling, right? It just doesn't go away. And for me, it sure didn't. And when my daughter turned 2, we had this big cake in front of her, and her little friends are around her, and everyone is like standing around her. And they say, somebody says, make a wish, as we're starting to blow out the candles. And at 2 years old, she knew to close her eyes tightly and to blow out the candles. And that was the moment for me, Katie, that I realized that if I didn't act now, like, it was time. Like, if I didn't act now, I knew that I would regret it. So that was the moment that I decided that it was time to decide how I could celebrate kids that needed to feel celebrated. And, going to Haiti was not in the cards for me, planning weddings and raising a toddler, but I knew that there were children in my backyard right down the street that were worthy of a celebration. And so I decided to go and start understanding what homelessness is and what it isn't. I think that you understand this. Like there can often be stigmas associated with homelessness, right? Like um,
Mhm.
bad choices, drug addiction, and I learned through, research that that is this simply isn't always the case. I got to understand that there are families that have been pulled into homelessness based on um, affordable housing issues, based on medical ailments that have taken them out of the ability to choose whether they were going to have a home or save lives. Um, we got to understand what domestic violence looks like and the shelters that take care of the families and the women who are fleeing. And through that, through understanding what this looked like, I recognized that that was the opportunity for us, that we could go in and infuse joy into circumstances that truly were beyond a child's control. And so that's how we started the Birthday Party Project.
Wow, what conviction, but then you acted on it and really sparked a shift for you, your volunteers, the kids impacted. How would you describe that deeper impact of celebrating a child's birthday? Like, what have you seen to be those long term impacts on the child or the family? And then maybe even your volunteers. Kind of like paint that picture for us.
Yeah, thanks. In the beginning, I have to say that I walked into this as an event planner. Like I know how to plan a party and that's what we're going to do. I'm going to gather my favorite friends around me and we are going to go to the agency, which was a shelter. We call them agencies. We're going to go to our agency and on the third Thursday of every month, we're going to celebrate any of the kids that have birthdays that month. And we'll invite everyone else that's staying at the party or is staying at the agency to participate in the party. And so for me, it felt like a very streamlined, efficient, beautiful process, right? Like I was just excited about that part. And then and then you get to see a familiar face, more than one at more than one party. There's a mom who will be at an agency for multiple months, and you start to establish a relationship with them, and you know their names, and you understand their kids, and you get to see their behaviors. And for me, I recognized that what we were doing was obviously so much more than just the birthday party, right? Like this was a chance for connection. And once I recognized the impact that we could have through these small connections, I started to get really intentional about that. And some of the ways that I have seen significant um, change or impact through these parties is sure when kids blow out a candle and then they open their gifts, there's often this moment of delight and excitement as kids are tearing through the birthday paper just to get to that gift that they have, or the moms are in the back filming their kids blowing out candles. Like that's immediate, right? You get to
Yeah.
see the immediacy of that. And um, we've had opportunities where we will celebrate with a family at one agency, which we would say is like it is an emergency shelter. And then
Mhm.
we see that mom um, rise through it with such resilience through that program and get into like a permanent supportive housing program where we also were celebrating kids. And when we get to see kids again on the other side in a different environment, one time I walked into a party and this girl ran up to me and said, "You're the birthday lady. You're the birthday lady." And I thought, "Hi, I'm Paige. What's your name?" And I'll never forget this. Her name was Kendra. And she said, "You celebrated my birthday last year. Are you going to celebrate it this year?" And those moments for me, they add up, right? But they
Mhm.
they create a mark. But there's other moments also, Katie. One that I'm particularly proud of is, and we speak about her a lot. Her name is Francesca, and when she was 15, we celebrated her birthday at a place called Family Gateway in downtown Dallas. And then her family also moved to another agency, and we got to celebrate her sister's birthdays. And one of her sisters got to experience a petting zoo for the very first time in her life. She was around live animals, right? And she was young. I think she was 10 at the time. And from that moment, her sister said, "I want to be a veterinarian." Well,
Wow.
fast forward, right? Fast forward from this moment of these moments of being of celebrating her family members.
Mhm.
And I had the privilege of speaking to a group here in Dallas. And after speaking to this group, a young, tall, beautiful girl approaches me and says, "Miss Page, my name is Francesca. And when I was 15, you celebrated my birthday and you celebrated my sister's birthday too." And I thought, "You're kidding me." And she says, "I'm the youngest ever intern here." And she told me all about taking a bus 2 hours to her internship and two
Mhm.
hours home, that she was working on her getting the best scores that she could to get into the best university that she could because she wanted to go to college.
Mhm.
And we started to develop this relationship that allowed me to see the impact of our moments, not because we changed the trajectory of her life, not necessarily, but what I do know is we infused confidence in
Yeah.
this girl. We allowed them to feel, these girls to feel seen, right? And I think when we feel seen, there's this validation that comes with that. Like, my work is not done. There's somebody that
Yeah.
believes in me. And Francesca will say to this day that that is absolutely true of our relationship with the Birthday Party Project.
Wow. That power of hope, that power of being seen, and that power of confidence, and it's coming at a time of real desperation and insecurity.
Mhm.
So, the intersection of those 2 things, that being able to give them this glimpse of power at a time where they're so desperate, um, what a unique way to turn their minds to say, "Hold on, I can get out. Hold on, I feel seen. Hold on, I have a glimpse of hope." I mean, that is all coming from just recognizing them on their birthday.
Mm,
Wow.
mm. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, thanks.
So I've seen some statistics. The National Center for Homeless Education estimates that there are 3.5 million children in the United States that are homeless.
Yes.
That's a lot of children
Yes.
who did not pick to do that. Okay. They are in
Correct.
circumstances that have, yielded them where they are. Is
Yes.
that the same kind of numbers and volume that you're hearing, seeing, or, I mean, is that low? Is that high? What are some of the types of volumes your team estimates? Or even what are the touch points that you are actually getting hands and seeing as far as, the kinds of numbers?
Yeah, no, I think that very much tracks. What we have seen
Okay.
statistically is a number between 2.4 to 4.4 um, children experiencing homelessness within a year. So I think the 3.5 million
Mhm.
number very much tracks, Katie.
Mhm.
What I know is, and I'm sure that you understand this too, is that this encompasses a lot of things. This is children who, oftentimes when we talk about this, people think they're imagining that we're celebrating with children who don't have families, right? Like they're just and that is the case in some times that we do celebrate children who are staying alone at the ages of 13 to 24. There are youth programs in which they have made the choice to opt out of foster care, or it didn't work for them and so they found a different path. We absolutely celebrate those kids.
Mhm.
And we're celebrating with a lot of families, whether they are dual parent families or single parent families. But back to what we kind of talked about in the beginning is these are victims of sex trafficking and human trafficking. These are victims of domestic violence. These are people who have been chronically homeless, their families, it's a systemic thing. And then these are people who truly just down on their luck, like one wrong turn has taken them to this place. And so as you look at the breadth of these numbers, we take into consideration that there are, in one ISD school district in the country, there will be thousands of children who are couch surfing, who are experiencing homelessness. We're actually have the ability to impact and to celebrate even those children in some of those school districts. So we're doing what we can to reach as many as we can, but the statistics to me are alarming. And you're right, children don't have a choice.
So I had the opportunity to give a TEDx talk, and I actually shared about my own experiences of housing instability as a child. At one point, our family of 5 was homeless and living in the tent. So your birthday party project really strikes a chord with me. And one of the things in this talk, I mentioned the misconceptions of homelessness. And I went through, what people sometimes think, what they say, and how we can, look at that differently. From your perspective, you are on the front lines working with families and children who are experiencing homelessness. What are some of the misconceptions that you would wanna tackle or that you would wanna speak some truth into? Can you share some of those?
Yes. Thank you for touching on your story. I have heard your story and am just grateful for the opportunity to speak with someone who has had such resilience and determination. I truly am grateful for that. I think that you're hitting this just dead on. I often hear words like um, lazy, or I even hear systemic, which I think is a true it's a true scenario that we're working with, right? I hear words of, you know, um, not caring, or would rather, you know, take something from the government than ever, try to work. I mean, all of the ways people talk about other individuals, I mean, it can just be so hateful and so hurtful. We try to approach our work with a different lens, which is that we're all human beings created by God and by goodness. Like, we should be treated with dignity. I think some of the things that we learned early on, and I'm not sure if this is helpful, but one of the things I learned early on is like this child first language. So rather than deciding what a child is, we have the opportunity to just talk about a child and what they're experiencing. So instead of saying homeless kid, homeless children, homeless families, we talk about it as people who are in a phase of homelessness, right? These are children experiencing homelessness. This is very different than deciding who they are as individuals. I think that it's really important that we are looking at human beings as just that, people who are on a journey somewhere and with something. And we often have the opportunity to speak with people, especially when we're talking about people who have um, been trafficked, or in domestic violence situations, when our birthday enthusiasts, that's what we call our volunteers, when our birthday enthusiasts gather before a party at one of these agencies that are housing families that have gone through this experience, we talk about the fact that it takes a woman 7 times to leave an abuser.
Wow.
And while people say like, "Well, why would it take so long?" Well, think about their circumstances being very different than maybe
Right.
yours were, right? Maybe they grew up in a place where they were never shown love or affection, or didn't know their value or worth. And so talk about this as a way to say like, our job tonight is to walk into this room and to celebrate with children and their family members, to connect with them and remind them that they are also human beings, that we are all on journeys. It is not a place to feel judgment. It's not a place to even ask questions. Why are you here? Right? That's not my business. My business is to love and to spread joy. And
Mhm.
but I often find that even in conversations now, Katie, I often find that people are like, what issue are you actually solving? Like, this isn't what people need. And why would you help people that are unwilling to help themselves? these are the myths, right? These are the
Right,
myths that we're
right.
talking about right now. There are too many barriers in people's way for us to be able to paint a clear path for any of us, but
Mhm.
especially people experiencing homelessness, to paint this clear path of, well, of course, this looks so simple from the outside, but when you really get into it, it's so layered. Um,
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think that there is an opportunity for us to extend grace, to ask different questions, and just to be reminded that we're all human beings.
Mhm. I mean, it is so layered, and it's economically, it's
Yes.
physically, it's mentally, it's community, it's structures. I mean, like, there is just so many parts of that layer, but what you're doing is saying, "It doesn't matter what happened or why you're here, you still can celebrate you."
That's right.
Right? And I think that's the beauty of what you're doing because
Mm,
when life implodes,
mhm.
you don't celebrate.
No,
Um, I
no.
mean, you just
The
don't,
first thing to
and
go. I mean, right? Like,
yeah,
that's the first thing out is
yes,
celebration. That's
yes,
exactly right.
and that does impact your psyche and
Yes.
your ability to sort of like when people say, "Well, why can't they just go get a job?" Or, "Why can't they just get an apartment?" You know, sometimes there's not even that core ability to say, "Okay, how can I develop a process by which I can go do that?"
Right.
And so this is very, very complex. Um,
Mhm.
let's talk about those birthday enthusiasts you
Yes,
mentioned.
let's do it.
You guys are in 20 cities. I mean, first of all, how in the world did you get to 20 cities? And then how do this big group of volunteers like talk to us how you're able to just make all that happen? Because that to me is fascinating. What a big footprint there.
It is truly the power of people. What I would say is, we have had this remarkable opportunity to connect with so many people. My background alone in events has put me all over the country, which just means that, and I'll talk to anybody. So I made lots of friends in lots of places. And when it comes down to the opportunity to grow, we reach out and people just say yes. But it started as such a grassroots effort here in Dallas, and then our story was picked up and told, and then it was told again, and it was told again. And when that happens, when the storytelling elements of this come in and people are hearing about what we're doing, I mean, birthdays are something that we all experience, right? We can
Right.
all identify with
Right.
what it feels like to be celebrated or to not be celebrated. And
Uh-huh.
those are the motivating factors that I have often found bring people into our world. But because of the grassroots energy and power of people and people just saying yes to our mission, we've had the opportunity to say yes back. And so we just had to keep adding chances to celebrate. When we first launched, we had somebody in San Francisco say, "I love what you're doing, and I think I can help." And they helped with financial resources and people resources, and we just went for it, right? We just said yes to the opportunity. And as we continued to grow, we would grow obviously very steadily with a lot of intention and care, because one of the things that we talk about is once we partner with an agency and we will commit to them for life. So if we start with them on celebrating on the fourth Wednesday of every month, you better believe that as long as we are here, we will be celebrating with you on the fourth Wednesday of every month.
Wow.
So we have agencies that we've been celebrating with for 12, 13 years now. And we have shown up every single month. COVID threw us a little bit, but the people that have come into our path, this is what I love so much, is that whether you are 3 and we have had 83-year-olds join us for celebrations, there's always something for someone to do at our parties. Whether it is simply, playing with another kid, whether it is sitting at a table and coloring, whether it is the person who is energizing the room and getting people to dance. I have found that there is a place for all of us to use our skills and our talents to serve in that way. And so, really, when we go into other cities, it's because someone has heard about our mission and wants to advocate and champion for us to be here. But here's the coolest part to me: I am sitting in our headquarters in Dallas, Texas, of which I never imagined that we would even have as much space as we do here now. And I have a great team of people who work for the Birthday Party Project, our little small but mighty team, Katie, of 6 people. And we have what we call party coordinators. These are 130 dedicated individuals who show up every single month to host
Wow.
parties on our behalf. We celebrate with them, and we recently just celebrated milestones of years that they've been with us. And most of our party coordinators have been with us for more than 8 years. Over half of them have been showing up every single month to the same agency in their city to host parties on our behalf as a volunteer. And
Wow.
they create connection with our agency partners, and they create connection with our kids and their families. They are the steadiness, right? Of they're kind of like that that help like the undercurrent. And then we have birthday enthusiasts, and that's people like you and me, and we get the opportunity to come in, whether it's individuals or corporate groups, or we have people who share their birthday and bring their friends with them to a party. And these are people who may show up once, or they may come back every single month and celebrate with us. But it does not happen without these thousands of people all over the country just continuing to say yes, to show up for our kids, and to take an hour and celebrate.
I want to ask an obvious question that's kind of hitting in my mind here, but you have the microphone. So I want to know, quite frankly, how you're paying for all of this. I
Sure.
mean, I want you to tell our listeners if you need people to come alongside of you and help you through this in a collaboration. Um, just be open with us because I'm sure this is not all cheap and
Right.
so that we've got listeners who I'm sure are incredibly impressed by what you're doing. So let us know what you need here.
Thank you for asking that question. Yes, I can paint an incredible picture of the amazing volunteers that we have. And I say that because I'm really proud of the numbers that allow us to continue to do our work in a really effective way while stewarding our resources. 81% of every dollar that we receive goes straight to celebrating our kids. And I'm damn proud of that number. 81 cents of every dollar. But we rely on the help of our community, absolutely. Whether it's kids who share their birthday, who ask for donations to the Birthday Party Project, whether people do toy drives at their offices. We have corporations who partner with us, and they are our corporate partners, allowing us to do big strategic moves to really help, support our mission in the ways in which we need that support, in terms of like just financial stability, that allows us to bring in talent that helps us to continue to grow. And of course, like, we love family foundations, but really we rely on the help of our community. It does not happen without them. And so it's $35 to sponsor a birthday kid. We also have a parallel program that I haven't mentioned yet called Birthday in a Bag. This allows us to reach kids in hard to reach places. It started during COVID. And when we were not able to party in person, we quickly shifted to Birthday in a Bag. And we provide kids and their family members a drawstring backpack. It says best day ever. And in that backpack, it has everything a kid needs to feel celebrated on their birthday, down to the tape to hang their streamers and their birthday banners in whatever place they are in. And those birthday bags, you can sponsor one of those birthday parties for $50. I mean, it takes very little to
Yeah.
make a big impact.
Tell us some of those 20 cities because I think as somebody's listening here, they're like, oh, wait a minute. That's in my town. And I want to kind of bridge some of that attachment. So give us a sampling of those cities.
Sure. So, West Coast is LA and San Francisco. And then of Texas, our home state is Dallas and Houston and Austin. We have Chicago. We have Detroit and Minneapolis. We go to Atlanta and New York. And we're headed to Charleston soon. And there's layers in between. So on our website, we have a big map and with stars on it, and it will show you all the places that we are celebrating children.
One more question here. If somebody is listening to you and your journey and they have a seed that's planted in their mind about maybe not a birthday, scenario, but something else that they're going through some of that conviction like you experienced, and they really want to launch some type of an initiative or a nonprofit, but they're hesitant. What would you say to somebody who is wanting to help with community issues, create some kind of change agent, but they just haven't done it yet? What do they need to hear from somebody who has done it and who has launched?
Um, your question brings up tears behind my eyes because um, the journey is not one straight path, right? Um, it doesn't happen. Change like this can certainly happen instantly, but I think that um, when we talk about like truly changing a trajectory, a life, whatever it is that you want to do, truly making this impact, it takes grit. And sometimes it feels hard and lonely. And there are nights that you want to give up. And there are mornings that you want to race out of bed with energy, right? You absolutely ride the roller coaster.
Yeah.
But none of that happens without starting somewhere. And none of that happens without saying yes. And so, in my opinion, you can look at this and think, oh my gosh, there are miles to go.
Mhm.
Or you take the first step and you
Okay.
see what it looks like at the first step, and then you take the next step. And
No.
as you're taking these steps, remind yourself that what you're doing is worth it and bring other people into the conversation because the more that you engage people, like there's this vulnerability aspect, right, to
Mhm.
starting something. And if we hold on tight because we're so uncomfortable, I think we lose the opportunity to learn and leverage other people's talents, right? Like if we hold on so tight to things, we're not giving other people the abilities and the chance to like shine through and shine with. And so I prefer to take one step at a time, to bring smart people around me, to admit where I need, help, to ask for it often, to give, to listen for the feedback and the advice more than I give it. And I don't always do that well these days, but I try really hard. Um, but there's something about this, like, imposter syndrome is real. It's real
Mhm.
to me. And there are moments along this journey of 13, actually 15 years where I've thought, why am I up here? Why am I the one doing this? Why is this me? This should not be. I do not have, but what I do have is determination and I got grit and I've got people that I can call on to make this better. And that recipe for me has been profound, not only as me, like changing who I am as a human being, but I hope has really helped create these ripple effects of joy that can be felt far beyond anything that I will ever know.
That is amazing, and I'm hoping that somebody really says, "Okay, I'm ready to launch. I'm ready to take that step. I'm ready to not be comfortable and move forward," because I know it sounds corny, but one person can make a huge difference. I mean,
Yeah.
if you had not acted on what your heart and what your conviction and just you as a person, if you hadn't acted on that, that's missed opportunity, sure, but it's also like all of these kids that their whole physical and mental well-being has been given a chance to. I mean, like, this is just to me, and so I just sit there and think, I hope somebody who's kind of toying with their own version of what they want to launch actually is now urged and prompted to do that just by hearing what you've been able to accomplish.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you. And you know what? Um, I hope so too, because if I can do it imperfectly and I'm still here,
Yeah.
then so can someone else.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I jotted down a few notes while we were talking here, and I cannot wait for Quadell to come alongside with you and see what we're able to help support you in. This is an issue that, unless we build more affordable housing,
Yes.
is actually projected to get worse as far as homelessness.
Yes.
So, we've got a couple of dynamics in our industry
Mhm.
that need to happen.
Mhm.
But we really appreciate what you're doing on the human side and kind of feeding into that hope cycle for those kids who didn't ask to be homeless. So, Paige, I appreciate you and what your team of 35,000 volunteers are doing. So we just want to sprinkle success so you're in even more cities across America.
Thank you so much, Katie. It's just a pleasure to talk with you, and thanks for the work that you guys are doing.
You are welcome. I've been talking with Paige Lohoffer, the founder of the Birthday Party Project. So I encourage everybody to go out and find out how you can also help support her and what they're doing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Changemakers with Katie Gore. To find out more about Katie, go to quadell.com. That's QUADEL.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.